Ancient structures around the world whisper a secret in stone. This is the mystery of the stone code geometry, a universal language built into pyramids and temples by cultures separated by oceans and time. By the end of this journey, you will be able to see the hidden patterns that connect humanity's greatest monuments. Why would builders encode the same sacred ratios into their work? And what profound message were they trying to preserve for the future? What does it mean if our entire history is written in a geometric language we are only now learning to read? Look closely at the spiral of a nautilus shell, and you witness a pattern of growth so perfect it feels mathematically composed. This same elegant curve appears in swirling galaxies and in the unfurling of a fern, a silent rhythm echoing through the cosmos. Ancient builders observed these patterns and saw not random chance, but a divine blueprint. They came to believe that specific geometric shapes and ratios held the very essence of creation, a concept we now call sacred geometry. This was not merely about beauty. It was a profound philosophy that viewed the universe as built from perfect mathematical forms. The circle, representing unity and the infinite cosmos, was perhaps the most fundamental shape. The square symbolized the earthly realm, stability, and the four cardinal directions. But the most celebrated ratio was the golden ratio, often represented by the Greek letter phi. This irrational number, approximately 1.618, appears when a line is divided so that the whole length compared to the longer segment is the same as the longer segment compared to the shorter one. It is the proportion that makes the nautilus shell so visually pleasing, and it was considered the key to harmonic perfection. The ancient Greek philosopher Plato himself declared that the world was fundamentally constructed from geometric forms, lending immense intellectual weight to this idea. These simple shapes and ratios became the foundational alphabet for a lost language. They were the basic, powerful symbols that cultures across the globe would use to encode their understanding of the universe into stone, creating a silent, enduring dialogue between nature, humanity, and the stars. The facade of the Parthenon stands as a silent lesson in perfect proportion. Its elegant form fits neatly within a rectangle whose sides are in a ratio of approximately 1.618, a number so special it seems to resonate with our very perception of beauty. This is the golden ratio, often symbolized by the Greek letter phi. It is the first and most celebrated principle of the stone code, a mathematical constant that ancient builders embedded into their greatest works with astonishing consistency. Look to the Great Pyramid of Giza. The ratio of its base perimeter to its original height is a figure remarkably close to 2 times pi, but its overall geometry also encodes phi, creating a structure that appears to fuse earthly measurement with celestial harmony. Across the sea, the massive stones of Stonehenge are arranged in patterns that some researchers argue also reflect this divine proportion, hinting at a common architectural thread. Why would cultures with no apparent contact all gravitate toward this same irrational number? Mathematicians point out that phi is intrinsically linked to growth patterns found throughout the natural world. It governs the spiral of a sunflower's seeds, the curve of a crashing wave, and the branching of trees. Archaeologists suggest that ancient builders, being profound observers of nature, saw this ratio as the fingerprint of a creator, a universal standard of balance and aesthetic perfection. This was more than an architectural trend. It was a shared, perhaps even instinctual, recognition of a fundamental cosmic order. From the pyramids of Egypt to the temples of the Americas, the golden ratio emerges not as a copied secret, but as a truth independently discovered, a silent number speaking a universal language written in stone. That same golden ratio we find in shells and temples also maps the movement of the heavens. Ancient builders looked upward and saw geometry in motion, the predictable arcs of the sun and the steady march of the stars. They responded by turning their stone creations into colossal calendars and astronomical observatories, encoding celestial knowledge directly into the landscape. In the rolling green hills of Ireland, the massive mound of Newgrange predates the Egyptian pyramids by centuries. Its most stunning feature is a narrow roof box, a small opening carefully positioned above the entrance. For just a few minutes at dawn on the winter solstice, a slender beam of sunlight pierces this opening, traveling down a long, dark passage to illuminate the inner chamber. This was not a random event, but a meticulously calculated alignment, a moment where the sun itself was invited into a human-built tomb, marking the rebirth of the year with stunning precision. On the other side of the world, the Sun Temple of Konark in India is designed as a monumental stone chariot for the solar deity. Its entire structure is oriented to capture the sun's rays in specific ways, with wheels that could have been used as sundials and architectural features that mark the equinoxes. The geometry here was a practical science, a way to track time for planting and harvests, but it was so much more. It was a spiritual bridge, a way to harmonize human existence with the grand, cyclical rhythms of the cosmos. This universal impulse to connect earth and sky reveals a profound truth about our ancestors. They did not see themselves as separate from the universe, but as active participants within a living, breathing, geometric whole. Their stone code was a language for speaking with the stars, a permanent record of humanity's quest to find our place in the vast, ordered dance of creation. A circle has no beginning and no end, an endless line enclosing a single space. For cultures around the world, this simple shape became the ultimate symbol of the cosmos, of divinity, and of eternal cycles. In stark contrast stands the square, with its 4 equal sides rooted firmly in the 4 cardinal directions, a perfect representation of the physical world, stability, and our earthly domain. This was the symbolic alphabet of the ancients, a set of core shapes each loaded with profound, universal meaning. When these builders raised their monuments, they were not just stacking stones, they were writing a philosophical statement in granite and limestone. The pyramid is a powerful fusion of these symbols. Its square base is firmly planted in the earth, the realm of the material, while its 4 triangular sides converge to a single point reaching for the heavens. This was architecture as a spiritual ascent, a literal and symbolic bridge between the world of humans and the realm of the gods. We see this same intention in the stepped pyramids of the Maya, where each tier brought the priest-king closer to the celestial sphere. On the other side of the globe, the Buddhist stupa presents a different but equally symbolic geometry. Its hemispherical dome represents the womb of the universe, a contained cosmos, often crowned by a square structure and multiple circular harmonics, symbolizing the stages of enlightenment and the ascending planes of existence. These were not just beautiful forms, they were 3-dimensional maps of a spiritual journey. Even the humble circle, when repeated, held immense power. Consider the great stone circles like Callanish in Scotland, where rings of standing stones may have acted as symbolic portals, marking a sacred space where the infinite cosmos touched the finite earth. This shared vocabulary of shape points to something deep within the human psyche. It suggests that our ancestors, separated by continents and cultures, arrived at a common intuitive understanding. A circle feels eternal, a square feels stable, a triangle feels dynamic, pointing upward. This innate response to form became the bedrock of the stone code, allowing a Mayan priest and an Egyptian architect to express the same profound truths about the universe, crafting a silent, global conversation in the most enduring language we possess, the language of form itself. The seamless walls of Saxehuaman are a breathtaking puzzle carved from granite. Here, stones the size of small houses are locked together so perfectly that you cannot slide a piece of paper between them. Their surfaces are not flat but subtly curved, each block a unique, irregular polygon that somehow finds its perfect neighbor in a colossal stone mosaic. This is not rough construction, it is a masterclass in applied geometry. The builders possessed an intimate understanding of angles, planes, and three-dimensional space. They were not merely stacking rocks, they were solving a giant, weight-bearing jigsaw puzzle without a visible guide. How did they achieve such perfection without iron tools or the wheel? The process began at the quarry, where workers likely used harder stones to pound channels into the bedrock, eventually isolating a single massive block. But the real magic was in the shaping. It is believed they used a system of measurement and plumb lines, meticulously dressing each stone by trial and error, constantly checking the fit against its neighbors. This required not just brute strength, but a profound, almost intuitive grasp of geometry. They understood that complex, interlocking shapes distribute weight and resist seismic forces far better than simple rectangular blocks. This knowledge transformed a wall from a mere barrier into a resilient, earthquake-proof structure that has endured for centuries. This incredible precision is the practical grammar of the stone code. It reveals a society that had elevated geometry from a philosophical idea into a working technology. The perfect fit of these stones is a silent testament to a lost school of engineering, a sophisticated system of planning and execution that challenges everything we assume about the technological capabilities of the ancient world. What other secrets of form and function did these master builders understand that we have yet to rediscover? Rising from the Giza Plateau, the Great Pyramid is a mountain of geometric precision. Its base forms a near-perfect square with sides aligned almost exactly to the four cardinal directions. This alignment to true north is not just symbolic, it is staggeringly accurate, achieved without the aid of modern compasses or satellite technology. The builders likely used celestial observations, perhaps tracking the circumpolar stars to find this fixed point in the sky, and then translated that cosmic knowledge into a terrestrial landmark with breathtaking exactitude. This orientation suggests the pyramid was more than a tomb. It may have served as a geodetic marker, a fixed point on the globe that anchored an ancient understanding of the Earth itself. But the true genius of its design is woven into its very proportions. The ratio of the pyramid's original perimeter to its height is a figure that closely approximates 2 times pi. This mathematical constant, central to the geometry of circles, is elegantly encoded in the pyramid's square base and triangular faces. Furthermore, the slant height of each face compared to half its base length yields the golden ratio phi, that same divine proportion found throughout nature. This means the pyramid's entire form is a physical embodiment of these fundamental mathematical truths. Constructing such a monument required a master plan rooted in a deep understanding of spherical geometry and astronomy. The sheer scale, with millions of limestone blocks placed with millimeter precision, implies a society that saw no separation between the spiritual and the scientific. They viewed the cosmos as an ordered geometric system and built a mountain on Earth to reflect that perfect order. The Great Pyramid stands as the ultimate testament to the stone code, a pinnacle of applied ancient knowledge that continues to challenge our assumptions and inspire a profound sense of wonder. These geometric echoes are not confined to a single continent. The stepped pyramids of Mesoamerica rise from the jungle canopy, their silhouettes eerily familiar to the ancient ziggurats of Mesopotamia. Separated by vast oceans and thousands of years, these cultures chose the same fundamental form, a terraced mountain reaching for the heavens. The base angles of the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan in Mexico and the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt are remarkably close, both hovering around 43 degrees, creating a slope that seems to be an optimal balance between stability and aspiration. How could such specific architectural choices appear in worlds apart? This question extends beyond pyramids. The grand Gothic cathedrals of Europe, with their soaring vaults and pointed arches, encode the same golden ratio found in the precise floor plans of Hindu temples in India. The proportions of a rose window and the layout of a mandala seem to whisper the same mathematical secret. The most compelling explanation is not necessarily one of travel or direct contact, but of independent discovery. It suggests that when human minds deeply contemplate the nature of space, form, and the cosmos, they arrive at the same elegant solutions. These builders were not copying each other's blueprints. They were all reading from the same universal source code, a set of geometric principles that are woven into the fabric of reality itself. They were tapping into a fundamental resonance, an inherent order that governs everything from the structure of a crystal to the spiral of a galaxy. This global pattern is the stone code's most powerful argument, a silent testament to a shared human intuition for the deep geometry that underlies our world. What does it mean that our ancestors, in their greatest moments of creation, all chose to speak this same silent language? Within the silent confines of ancient chambers, geometry became a conduit for the divine. The very layout of a sacred space was never accidental. It was a carefully calculated instrument designed to orchestrate spiritual experience. Take the so-called King's Chamber deep inside the Great Pyramid, its walls built from precisely fitted granite blocks. The room's dimensions form a perfect 2-to-1 rectangle, a ratio believed by some researchers to create a specific resonant frequency. When chants or tones were uttered in this space, the geometry of the room itself may have amplified the sound, transforming human voice into something otherworldly and deepening the state of consciousness for rituals we can only imagine. This was architecture as a spiritual amplifier where stone and shape worked in concert to elevate the human spirit. Across continents and eras, we find this same intentional design. In the great Gothic cathedrals of medieval Europe, floor labyrinths were laid into the stone. These intricate circular paths were not puzzles to be solved, but journeys to be walked. A pilgrim would slowly, meditatively trace the single path to the center, a physical act guided by sacred geometry, meant to symbolize a spiritual pilgrimage to Jerusalem. The geometric pattern underfoot became a map for an inner voyage, a tool for contemplation and transcendence. Even the simplest ceremonial altar was often positioned according to geometric principles, aligned with solar or stellar events to draw celestial power into a communal rite. Why did so many cultures share this belief that specific shapes and angles could channel spiritual energy? It points to a universal human intuition that the cosmos is ordered, and that by mimicking that order in our most sacred spaces, we can attune ourselves to a higher harmony. The stone circle was not just a venue for ceremony, it was an active participant. The geometry shaped the sound, directed the movement, and focused the intention of everyone within it, transforming individual prayer into a collective resonance with the universe. This reveals the ultimate purpose of the stone code. It was not merely a language for building, but a technology for connecting humanity to the infinite. A simple knotted rope becomes a precision instrument in the hands of a master. Imagine a stretched cord. its knots placed at specific intervals based on the length of a forearm or the stride of a walk. This humble tool, a surveyor's cord, was likely the starting point for laying out the vast foundations of pyramids and temples. By creating triangles with these measured ropes, builders could establish perfect right angles, a principle known for millennia. A triangle with sides of 3, 4, and 5 units will always form a right angle, a straightforward geometric trick that allowed them to square massive structures with nothing more than rope and stakes. For aligning these foundations to the cardinal directions, they turned to the sky. Sighting poles, simple wooden stakes placed in the ground, were used to track the rising and setting of key stars, slowly refining the orientation of a building over successive nights until it was locked to true north. Leveling was achieved with equal ingenuity. A water-filled trench carved into the bedrock, or a simple tool like the Egyptian merkit, which used a plumb line against a notched palm rib, could establish a true horizontal plane across vast distances. The true genius, however, was not in the tools themselves, but in the profound understanding of how to use them. A knotted rope is just a rope until you understand the Pythagorean theorem. A sighting pole is just a stick until you comprehend the predictable motion of the celestial sphere. This combination of simple technology and advanced knowledge transformed construction into a sacred act. The stone code was not a secret locked away in scrolls. It was a living, breathing tradition passed from master to apprentice on the worksite. Each perfectly placed stone was a testament to this generational wisdom, a practical application of cosmic principles that turned grand philosophical ideas into enduring monuments. What we see as impossible precision was, for them, simply the correct way to build, a testament to a lost era where every measurement was a conversation with the universe. There is a quiet music playing within these ancient stones, a rhythm you can feel more than hear. This is the language of architectural harmonics, where the silent relationship between a building's parts creates a symphony for the eyes. Imagine a single, resonant note struck on a string. When you divide that string into simple ratios, you create the perfect intervals of a musical scale, the octave, the fifth, the fourth. Ancient builders, from the Greeks to the master masons of medieval cathedrals, applied this exact same principle to their structures. They designed the height of a room, the spacing between columns, and the width of an arch using these simple whole number ratios. A space might be built on a 2-to-1 proportion, like a musical octave, creating a feeling of solid stability. Another might use a 3-to-2 ratio, the perfect fifth, to evoke a sense of dynamic balance. Why would a musical system be the blueprint for a temple? Because these cultures perceived harmony as a universal law, a single principle governing the vibration of a string, the orbit of a planet, and the ideal proportions of a sacred space. A building designed with these ratios was not merely a shelter, it was an instrument tuned to the cosmos itself. This understanding extended even to sound. The same ratios that made a space visually balanced also shaped its acoustics. A chamber built with harmonic proportions could amplify a chant or make a whispered prayer carry with uncanny clarity, turning architecture into a resonant vessel for spiritual experience. This reveals a layer of the stone code far more subtle than simple shape or alignment. It was a code of relationship and resonance, a deliberate effort to build structures that did not just house ritual, but actively participated in it by harmonizing with the fundamental mathematical order of reality. What does it mean that the same simple numbers that please our ears also calm our eyes and elevate our spirits? The great library of Alexandria was said to hold the collective knowledge of the ancient world, a treasure trove of scrolls that vanished into smoke and ash. Its destruction stands as a haunting symbol of how entire oceans of understanding can simply evaporate from history. This presents us with a profound puzzle. How could such a sophisticated and widespread geometric science leave behind so few written manuals or detailed blueprints? The answer may lie not in what was lost, but in how this knowledge was designed to be preserved. This sacred geometry was considered far too powerful for common parchment. It was protected within secretive guilds of master builders, passed down through generations in a living chain of oral tradition and initiation. A young apprentice would not learn from a book. He would learn by doing, by listening to the chants that held the formulas, by feeling the correct angle of a stone as his master guided his hands. The knowledge was encoded in ritual, in song, and in the meticulous practice of the craft itself. These were not just construction secrets, they were spiritual truths, and their transmission was a sacred rite. The monuments themselves became the ultimate, indestructible library. While a scroll could burn and a language could be forgotten, the Great Pyramid would forever stand as a permanent record of pi and phi. The proportions of the Parthenon would continue to teach the golden ratio long after the names of its architects had faded. This reliance on stone as the primary medium of communication speaks volumes about the sacred and exclusive nature of this language. The builders did not trust their deepest truths to perishable materials. They inscribed them into the very bones of the earth, creating a legacy that could be damaged but never entirely erased. This was a knowledge meant to be decoded not through words, but through observation and intuition, waiting for a future age to look upon these silent forms and begin to understand the conversation they were having across the millennia. The constellations were not just patterns in the sky, they were stories written in light. Ancient cultures saw these celestial narratives as the ultimate authority, a divine script they felt compelled to replicate on the ground. This profound impulse transformed their architecture from mere buildings into a physical mythology, a stone code that gave tangible form to their most sacred beliefs. The entire city of Teotihuacan in Mexico is a stunning example of this principle in action. Its central thoroughfare, known today as the Avenue of the Dead, is not aligned to true north like the pyramids of Giza. Instead, its orientation is precisely set to track the path of the Pleiades star cluster as it descends below the horizon. For the people of Teotihuacan, the Pleiades held immense significance, connected to cycles of time, agriculture, and perhaps even the story of their own origins. By mirroring its celestial journey in their city's main axis, they were weaving their community's identity directly into the fabric of the night sky. The Great Pyramid of the Sun and the Pyramid of the Moon were not isolated monuments. They were integral parts of this cosmic map, representing specific mountains or deities within their worldview. This practice of earthly mirroring was a global phenomenon. In ancient Egypt, the three pyramids of Giza are arranged in a pattern that many researchers believe mirrors the three stars of Orion's belt. The Nile River itself was seen as a terrestrial counterpart to the Milky Way, a shimmering highway for the soul in the afterlife. The layout of temples and tombs across the region often reflected this belief, creating a sacred landscape where one could literally walk through a model of the cosmos. This geometric encoding went beyond simple alignments. The very chambers within a temple could represent different realms of existence. A sunken crypt might symbolize the underworld, a central hall the earthly plane, and a high, domed sanctuary the heavenly sphere. To move through such a structure was to enact a spiritual journey, a physical pilgrimage through a cosmology carved in stone. Why did cultures from the Andes to the Indus Valley all engage in this practice? It reveals a universal human desire to find order and meaning in the vastness of the universe. By building a model of the cosmos here on Earth, they were not just observing the heavens, they were actively participating in them. They were grounding their myths, solidifying their understanding of creation, and ensuring that their stories of gods and ancestors would endure long after their spoken words had faded. The stone code, in its highest expression, was the language they used to write their epic poems, not on fragile parchment, but on the enduring face of the land itself. A fern leaf unfurls in a series of repeating, self-similar branches, a perfect fractal pattern that nature uses again and again. Ancient artisans saw this elegant efficiency and carved it into their stonework and painted it onto their pottery. This conscious emulation of natural forms, a principle we call biomorphism, reveals that the stone code was not a human invention, but a discovery of a pre-existing language written into the world itself. The spiral, one of the most powerful and recurring symbols, is a perfect example. We find it etched into megalithic stones at Newgrange, swirling across the floors of Roman villas, and woven into the intricate metalwork of the Vikings. This is not a coincidence. They were copying the most fundamental patterns they observed: the whirl of a galaxy, the curl of a breaking wave, and the chambered interior of a nautilus shell. They were drawing the universe as they saw it, believing that by incorporating these forms, they were infusing their creations with the same vital energy and timeless order found in nature. This connection extends to the very materials they used. In Northern Ireland, the Giant's Causeway presents a landscape of towering hexagonal basalt columns, a geological wonder formed by the rapid cooling of lava. Ancient builders did not just see a curious rock formation, they saw a masterclass in structural integrity. The hexagon is nature's preferred shape for maximizing strength with minimal material, a pattern evident in the cells of a honeycomb. When these builders constructed walls or laid paving stones, they often arranged them in polygonal patterns, unconsciously or consciously replicating this natural engineering. Why would a culture separated by millennia and distance arrive at the same hexagonal design as a honeybee? The answer lies in a shared response to physical laws. The principles of tension, compression, and efficient packing are universal. The ancient builder, by observing a honeycomb or a basalt flow, was learning from the world's oldest and most reliable engineer. They understood that nature's designs had been refined over eons, and to copy them was to build something not just beautiful, but inherently strong and enduring. This suggests a humility and wisdom often lost in our modern approach. They did not seek to conquer nature with their geometry, but to collaborate with it, to learn its language and speak it back in stone. Their greatest architectural triumphs were not declarations of human dominance, but homages to a universal design intelligence, a silent partnership between human creativity and the timeless patterns of the natural world. For the philosopher Pythagoras, the entire cosmos hummed with a mathematical music. He taught that numbers were not just for counting, but the very substance of reality, the hidden language of the divine. To his followers, studying geometry was a form of prayer, a way to glimpse the perfect, eternal forms that they believed underlay our messy, imperfect world. This was not a dry academic exercise, it was a spiritual quest for truth. A circle drawn in the sand was not merely a shape, it was a reflection of celestial perfection, a symbol of unity whose contemplation could quiet the mind and elevate the soul. This profound idea resonated across cultures. In the Vedic traditions of ancient India, intricate geometric designs known as mandalas served a similar purpose. These were not simply art, they were cosmic maps and powerful tools for meditation. A practitioner would focus on the mandala's precise symmetry, its layers and gates, using its geometry as a ladder for the mind to climb from the outer world of distraction to the inner center of enlightenment. The act of creating the mandala was itself a sacred ritual, a temporary construction of a perfect universe meant to guide one toward the eternal. Why did these disparate traditions converge on the same method? They shared a fundamental belief that the Creator, by whatever name, was a master geometer. The orderly motion of the planets, the predictable seasons, the flawless symmetry of a snowflake, all pointed to a universe built on mathematical principles. Therefore, to engage with pure geometry was to commune with the architect of it all. This transforms our understanding of the ancient builders. When they laid out the foundation of a temple using sacred ratios, they were not just an architect following a design. They were a philosopher engaged in a spiritual practice, using rope and stake to draw a portal to the divine. The rising walls were not just enclosing a space, they were materializing a prayer. The final structure stood as a permanent meditation chamber, its very proportions a silent, continuous sermon on the harmonic nature of reality. The stone code, then, is far more than an architectural pattern book. It is a spiritual roadmap left behind in the most enduring medium our ancestors could find, waiting for us to recognize that these stones were first conceived not in quarries, but in contemplative minds seeking a path to the source of all things. Laser scanning now reveals the subtle curves of a pyramid's face, curves so slight they were invisible for millennia but mathematically precise. This is not science fiction. It is the new frontier of archaeology, where satellite imagery and ground-penetrating radar are peeling back the layers of time to expose the true genius encoded in these sites. The entire field of archaeoastronomy has been transformed by this technological leap. Where researchers once used simple compasses and the naked eye to guess at celestial alignments, they now use digital theodolites and astronomical software. They can calculate the exact position of a star thousands of years in the past and measure with millimeter accuracy how a temple doorway frames its rising. This precision has moved many alignments from the realm of intriguing possibility to confirmed, intentional design. At the ancient Egyptian temple of Karnak, for instance, sophisticated analysis has demonstrated that its main axis was aligned so that the midwinter sun would set directly along it, flooding the inner sanctuary with a symbolic rebirth of light in a spectacle of pure geometric theater. Computational analysis takes this even further. By creating three-dimensional digital models of entire complexes, researchers can run algorithms to search for hidden geometric relationships. They might discover that the centers of three seemingly separate temples form a perfect equilateral triangle, or that the distances between monuments are multiples of a shared, standard unit of measurement. These are not patterns a person could easily see while standing at the site. They are large-scale relationships written into the landscape itself, a hidden layer of the stone code we are only now learning to read. What does this hard data tell us? It confirms that the ancient builders were not just spiritually inspired, they were technical savants. Their work displays a consistent, repeatable application of advanced mathematical and astronomical principles. This scientific validation is crucial. It shifts the conversation from speculative wonder to a grounded appreciation of their intellectual legacy. We are no longer just admiring their monuments. We are finally beginning to understand the profound, calculated mind that conceived them. These geometric masterpieces inevitably spark intense debate, a fundamental clash of perspectives on human history itself. On one side, mainstream archaeology presents a powerful and compelling narrative, one built upon decades of meticulous excavation and analysis. This view champions the sheer force of human ingenuity, patient observation, and cultural evolution. It argues that over generations, skilled artisans refined their craft through trial and error, passing down a cumulative body of knowledge. The perfect fit of stones at Saxehuaman, from this standpoint, is not evidence of a lost technology, but the pinnacle of a long, local tradition of stonemasonry. The celestial alignments are seen as the result of centuries of sky watching by dedicated priest astronomers who slowly refined their understanding and encoded it into their architecture. This explanation requires no outside intervention, only the brilliance of the human mind applied consistently over time. Yet, for others, this very explanation feels insufficient, unable to fully account for the global scale and technical precision on display. This has given rise to alternative theories that capture the public imagination. Could these builders have been guided by a much older, more advanced civilization, one whose history was erased by a great cataclysm, leaving only these indestructible monuments as silent witnesses? Or, in the most speculative proposals, were these sites built with assistance from beyond our world, with extraterrestrial visitors providing the advanced knowledge required? Proponents of these ideas point to the logistical puzzles, the sheer weight of the stones, and the mathematical constants encoded in structures built before the formal discovery of those constants. They ask how cultures working in isolation could have converged on such specific and sophisticated designs. The mainstream response is one of cautious respect for the mystery, but a firm grounding in the evidence we do possess. They highlight the archaeological record that shows the gradual development of these techniques, the simple but effective tools found at sites, and the absence of any physical evidence for these more speculative helpers. So where does the truth lie? Perhaps it is not a simple choice between these opposing views. Maybe the real wonder lies in the vast, untapped potential of our own ancestors. The stone code may not be a legacy handed down from gods or stars, but the ultimate expression of a human intuition for the mathematical fabric of reality, an intuition so profound that its full capabilities still challenge our modern understanding. This unresolved dialogue is what keeps the mystery alive, inviting each of us to look at these ancient stones and decide for ourselves what story they truly tell. 1,000 years after the fall of Rome, the geometric flame burned bright in the forests of France. Here, the master masons of the Gothic era raised cathedrals that seemed to defy gravity itself, their soaring vaults and vast rose windows speaking the ancient language of sacred geometry with a new and breathtaking dialect. These were not crude imitations of the past, but a brilliant rekindling of the stone code, a continuous thread of understanding woven through the secretive guilds of builders. At Chartres Cathedral, every measurement sings in harmony. The labyrinth set into the floor is not just a path for pilgrims, but a complex geometric diagram of spiritual ascent. The west front facade, with its twin spires and central rose window, is a masterpiece of proportion, its dimensions meticulously calculated using the golden ratio and the square root of 2. These were not arbitrary choices, they were the foundational principles of a sacred science, passed down from master to apprentice as the key to building a house for God. This knowledge did not arrive from nowhere. It was the legacy of ancient learning, preserved and studied in monastic libraries even during Europe's so-called Dark Ages. When the Renaissance dawned, this hidden stream of geometry burst into the open. Thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci passionately studied the works of the Roman architect Vitruvius and the Greek philosophers, creating his own iconic Vitruvian Man, a figure perfectly inscribed within both a circle and a square. This drawing was a declaration that the human form itself was the ultimate expression of divine proportion, a living embodiment of the stone code. For Renaissance artists and architects, geometry was the bridge between the material world and the ideal realm of perfect forms. They saw themselves not as inventors, but as rediscoverers of a timeless truth, a universal language of beauty and balance that had once built the pyramids. The enduring presence of these principles in the Gothic spire and the Renaissance dome reveals something profound. It shows that the stone code was never truly lost, only waiting in the wings of history for a culture ready to listen to its silent music once more. What does this unbroken chain of geometric knowledge tell us about the principles that truly shape human civilization at its highest peaks? The geometric order of the pyramids echoed in the humble market square. This sacred language of shape was not confined to the elite, but was a practical tool woven into the daily rhythm of ancient life, a common knowledge that brought structure and fairness to entire communities. It began with the very act of measurement. Across cultures, standard units emerged from the human body itself, a universal toolkit for builders and merchants alike. The cubit, the length of a forearm from elbow to fingertip, became the standard for constructing monuments in Egypt. In South Asia, the angular, based on the width of a finger, was used for intricate architectural plans. These were not arbitrary distances. They were personal, repeatable, and easily understood by everyone, ensuring that when a merchant measured out a length of cloth or a farmer marked the boundary of his field, both parties were speaking the same geometric language. This prevented disputes and built a foundation of trust in commerce, proving that geometry was as much about social harmony as it was about precision. This practical knowledge extended to the home. Look at the simple clay pot, its elegant curves formed on a spinning wheel, a tool that is itself a lesson in circular motion. The potter's hands, guided by an intuitive sense of symmetry, created vessels whose proportions were not just beautiful, but perfectly balanced for carrying water or storing grain. In textiles, weavers used geometric patterns, repetitive triangles, and zigzag motifs to reinforce fabric and create stunning visual rhythms. These designs were more than decoration. They were the application of a fundamental understanding of form and pattern, a knowledge passed from mother to daughter, from master to apprentice, in the quiet corners of everyday life. Even the land itself was organized by this geometric thinking. The division of agricultural fields was a matter of survival. Using simple ropes and the age-old principles of triangulation, communities could subdivide land fairly after the annual flood of a river like the Nile. These geometrically precise plots ensured that each family received an equitable portion of fertile soil, a practical application of geometry that prevented conflict and fed civilizations. This reveals a profound truth. The stone code was not a secret magic, but a shared civic science. It was the invisible framework that allowed a society to function, to trade, to build, and to farm with a shared sense of order, proving that the most enduring language of all is the one that serves the common good. Some spaces seem to cradle your thoughts, while others set your spirit soaring. This is no accident, but the subtle psychological power of geometry at work. Ancient builders possessed an intuitive grasp of what we now call neuroarchitecture, the study of how built environments shape our brains and emotions. They understood that a space was more than its function. It was an experience carefully composed in stone. Consider the profound difference between walking into a low, dimly lit crypt and entering a cathedral with vaulted ceilings that disappear into shadow. The crypt, with its confined geometry, naturally turns your attention inward, fostering a state of deep contemplation or quiet reverence. The cathedral, in stark contrast, uses immense scale and upward thrusting lines to trigger a sense of awe, that humbling feeling of being in the presence of something vastly greater than oneself. This was a deliberate architectural strategy. The same principle is felt in the circular chambers of ancient Tholos tombs, where the continuous, enclosing wall creates a feeling of containment and safety, or in the long, processional corridors of Egyptian temples that build anticipation with every step. Why do these geometric effects feel so universal? It seems our brains are hardwired to respond to specific spatial relationships. soaring verticality can feel inspiring because it subtly mimics the open, non-threatening space of a savanna, our ancestral home. Complex fractal-like patterns, similar to those found in forests and flowing water, are known to reduce stress and capture our attention in a gentle, calming way. The stone code, therefore, was not just a map of the cosmos or a set of building rules. It was a sophisticated language of human experience. These master builders were not only astronomers and engineers, they were early psychologists, sculpting space itself to guide the heart and mind toward specific states of being, from solemn reflection to transcendent wonder. They crafted environments that did not just house ritual, but actively conjured the very emotions the ritual required. These silent stone sentences, strung across continents, seem to whisper a few profound messages with remarkable consistency. One of the most powerful is a declaration of unity. The same golden ratio in the Parthenon and the Great Pyramid, the same celestial alignments in Ireland and India, all point toward a cosmos that is interconnected and whole. The builders were illustrating that the same laws govern the heavens and the earth, that a principle found in a tiny shell is equally valid for a mountain of stone. This was not just an observation, it was a plea for harmony, a reminder that humanity is a part of this single, magnificent system, not separate from it. Another core theme is the concept of an ordered reality. The precise encoding of pi and phi suggests these cultures saw the universe not as chaotic, but as a grand, mathematical construct. The cosmos was a composition, and they were the musicians building instruments tuned to its fundamental frequencies. This search for order may also extend to time itself. The relentless focus on solstices and equinoxes, on tracking the slow precession of the stars, hints at a deep understanding of cyclical time. The monuments could be massive stone clocks, reminding us that civilizations, like seasons, rise and fall in a great, repeating rhythm, a potential warning to future generations to heed the patterns of history. Yet perhaps the most humbling and inspiring message is a testament to human potential. What if the stone code is not a message from gods or visitors, but a simple, staggering memo from our own ancestors? A note that reads, "Look what we discovered with simple tools and patient observation. Look what the human mind is capable of when it turns its focus to the grand mysteries." This interpretation suggests that the latent ability for such genius still resides within us, waiting to be reawakened. So what were they trying to tell us? They spoke of unity, of cosmic order, of the cycles of time, and of our own immense capacity for wonder. The stones ask us to look past the surface of history and see the deeper connections, to remember that we are part of a vast, intelligent, and beautifully patterned whole. The same geometric principles that shaped towering pyramids were meticulously woven into tapestries and painted onto pottery. Before a master builder ever laid a foundation stone, an artist was already speaking the language of the stone code, translating cosmic order into intricate patterns. Look at the endless, looping paths of a Celtic knot. There is no true beginning and no end, just a single, unbroken line weaving upon itself in perfect symmetry. This was not merely decoration. It was a profound philosophical statement about the interconnectedness of all life and the eternal cycle of existence, a concept easier to express through a visual pattern than with words alone. Across the world, Islamic artisans perfected the art of tessellation, covering walls and manuscripts with complex, interlocking geometric stars and polygons. This breathtaking art form sprang from a cultural inclination to avoid figurative imagery, leading artists to explore the infinite possibilities of pure form. The repeating, radiating patterns evoke the infinite nature of the divine, a universe without end, all created from a handful of simple, perfect shapes. In the ceremonial practices of Native American cultures, medicine men would create sacred sand paintings, carefully pouring colored sands to form geometric mandalas that represented the cosmos, the directions, and the place of humans within it. These were not permanent artworks, but temporary constructions used in healing rituals. Once the ceremony was complete, the intricate geometric pattern was deliberately swept away, a powerful lesson on the impermanence of the material world, contrasted with the eternal nature of the spiritual order it represented. Why did these cultures, so distant from one another, all choose geometry as their primary visual vocabulary? The answer lies in abstraction's unique power. A circle can represent the sun, the moon, the cycle of life, or the entire cosmos all at once. A repeating triangle can symbolize mountains, the elements, or stages of spiritual ascent. These geometric art forms were a universal shorthand for expressing ideas that were simply too vast for literal depiction. They were portable cosmology, a way for individuals and communities to carry a map of the universe in their minds and reproduce it with their hands, whether in stone, on cloth, or in sand. This reveals that the stone code was never just an architectural secret. It was a holistic worldview, a shared visual language that permeated every level of creative expression, from the grandest temple to the most humble domestic object, uniting humanity in a silent, beautiful conversation about the underlying shape of reality itself. A slow decay now threatens these geometric manuscripts carved from the living earth. The very stones that have whispered their secrets for millennia are facing a new and relentless assault from the modern world. Acid rain, born from industrial pollution, eats away at the precise angles of marble temples, subtly erasing the mathematical clarity the builders worked so hard to achieve. The sheer weight of millions of tourist footsteps gradually wears down sacred pathways and alters the delicate acoustics of resonant chambers. Even the vibrations from nearby traffic and construction can, over time, unsettle the perfect balance of dry stone walls that have withstood earthquakes for centuries. This is not a sudden collapse, but a quiet, incremental fading of a language we are only just beginning to understand. The challenge of preservation is fraught with ethical dilemmas. When a stone is replaced, is it still part of the original message? If we use modern materials to reinforce a structure, are we preserving the monument or fundamentally altering its essence? There is a delicate balance between halting decay and freezing a site in a state that never truly existed, creating a sterile replica that has lost its historical soul. This struggle extends from the physical to the philosophical. Interpreting the stone code is like trying to read a complex book with most of its pages missing. We bring our own modern biases, our love for precise mathematics and clear engineering purposes, to structures that were likely conceived in a world where myth, science, and spirituality were a single, seamless whole. We might look at a celestial alignment and see an advanced observatory, while the builder may have seen a doorway for a god to walk through. We analyze the golden ratio as an aesthetic choice, while they may have felt it as a living, spiritual force. The danger is in reductionism, in forcing these multifaceted creations into a single, narrow category that makes sense to our 21st century minds. This is why preservation is so urgent. It is not merely an archaeological concern, it is an act of safeguarding a priceless library. Each stone that crumbles is a lost word. Each alignment that shifts is a scrambled sentence in humanity's earliest and most profound attempt to describe the universe. We are the inheritors of this library, tasked with protecting its fragile volumes long enough for future generations, with new tools and perhaps deeper wisdom, to finally read the full story. A single key cannot unlock a door with a dozen different locks. The mystery of the stone code is precisely this kind of intricate puzzle, a challenge so vast that no single expert holds all the answers. To truly comprehend this universal language, we must embrace an interdisciplinary approach where the distinct voices of history, mathematics, and archaeology join together in a shared conversation. Each field brings a crucial piece of the story. The historian provides the vital cultural context, deciphering the myths, rituals, and worldviews that gave these geometric forms their sacred meaning. They help us understand why a specific alignment mattered, what a spiral symbolized to a particular culture, and how a temple's layout reflected their creation stories. The mathematician then steps in to analyze the cold, hard numbers, calculating the precise ratios, identifying the encoded constants like pi and phi, and modeling the geometric relationships with digital precision. Finally, the archaeologist grounds everything in physical reality, unearthing the tools, the quarry marks, and the construction layers that prove how these abstract ideas were translated into monumental stone. Without this triad of perspectives, we are left with incomplete fragments, a beautiful ratio without a cultural soul, or a fascinating myth without its physical proof. A stunning example of this synergy can be found at Göbekli Tepe, the world's oldest known temple complex. For decades, the strange, T-shaped pillars carved with animals were an enigma. It was only when archaeologists meticulously mapped the site that mathematicians could identify underlying geometric patterns, suggesting the enclosures were laid out using equilateral triangles and perhaps even representing specific constellations. Historians of religion then weighed in, interpreting these carvings and geometric layouts as part of a complex belief system, a sacred cosmology carved into the bedrock of humanity's first great gathering place. This collaborative breakthrough was only possible because these experts stopped working in isolation and started listening to one another. This is the future of understanding our deepest past. The stone code is not a single message waiting to be read, but a complex symphony of meaning, and we need every instrument to hear its true music. The mathematician's equation, the historian's text, and the archaeologist's trowel are not rivals, but partners in a grand investigation, proving that the greatest mysteries yield their secrets only to a united front of human curiosity. The ocean floor remains one of our planet's last great frontiers, a vast, silent museum that could hold the next chapter of the stone code. As underwater robotics and advanced sonar mapping become more sophisticated, we stand on the brink of discovering geometric cities submerged by rising sea levels since the last ice age. Imagine finding structures off the coasts of India or in the Caribbean, their layouts echoing the same celestial alignments and sacred ratios we find on land. Such a discovery would not just add new pages to our history books, it would prove that this geometric language was spoken by seafaring cultures across a lost global network, a civilization scattered and submerged, leaving only the most durable of its monuments behind. Beyond the waves, the digital realm offers another key. Artificial intelligence, trained on the vast datasets of known archaeological sites, can process geometric relationships at a scale and speed impossible for the human brain. An AI could analyze the precise orientation of thousands of monuments simultaneously, searching for hidden patterns in their placement across continents. It might uncover that a temple in Cambodia and a pyramid in Peru share a common astronomical alignment to a star not previously considered, or that a specific fractal pattern repeats in Mayan glyphs and in the floor plans of Minoan palaces. This silicon-powered perspective could reveal a grand planetary design we are simply unable to see from our limited vantage point. The most profound examples of this universal language are almost certainly still buried, waiting beneath desert sands or hidden within dense jungles. Each new discovery, from a laser-scanned city in the Amazon to a satellite-identified structure in the Sahara, has the potential to deliver a missing piece of the puzzle, a Rosetta Stone of geometry that finally allows us to translate the full message. This quest is far from over, it is accelerating. The collective effort of explorers, scientists, and technologists is converging, turning the final pages of a story written in stone, a narrative that continues to unfold with every passing year, inviting us all to witness the next great revelation. Our journey through the Stone Code brings us to a breathtaking vista of human achievement. We have traced a silent symphony of form and number, a universal language composed in granite and limestone across continents and centuries. From the sacred ratios whispered by a nautilus shell to their grand expression in the pyramids, this code reveals itself as a multifaceted key. It was a practical tool for the surveyor's rope, a spiritual guide for the meditating mind, and a cosmic map written onto the very landscape. The evidence gathered from every corner of the globe points toward a profound, shared understanding, a deep intuition for the geometric fabric that weaves our world to the heavens. This legacy invites you to see with new eyes, to look upon the ancient world and the modern one, searching for the hidden patterns in a leaf, a building, or a starry night that connect us all to this timeless conversation. If this exploration has sparked a sense of wonder in you, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and join us as we continue to unravel history's greatest mysteries together.